Minwei Chi Nan. Chapter 70. It's good to be a landlord. Qin Mian held on to Lai Tie's waist to prevent him from falling. I secretly went to see Grandpa and Grandma for the last time, but they found out and let second uncle catch up to me to give me a silver tail. Without this silver tail, perhaps this Lai Tie would not have existed in this world anymore. I took this one silver tail all the way north. Qin Mian turned his head and looked at his eyes carefully. Are you sober? Lai Tie embraced him, very sober. You never talk about those 10 years and I thought you didn't want to tell me. Qin Mian looked at him with a faint smile. His heart was at ease. I won't hide anything from you. Lai Tie pinched his chin, pecked his lips lightly, and took over the ox's rope. I don't know where to start before. In those days. Qin Mian listened carefully. It was not until they reached home that Lai Tie finished his story. Qin Mian was still in shock. He forgot to get out of the cart and was carried down by Lai Tie, who led him into the house and set him down on the settee. He absolutely never thought that those 10 years of Lai Tie's life were so complicated, so exciting, so wonderful and so hard. It was no wonder he never mentioned the past. Standing at the door of the kitchen, Qin Mian watched Lai Tie sitting in front of the stove, making a fire to boil water. He walked over, squatted down, and hugged him. Knowing Lai Tie's past, he felt even more heartache for Lai Tie while his heart felt closer to Lai Tie. At the same time, he felt a little uneasy. Lai Tie spoke honestly with him, but he did not immediately want to tell Lai Tie about the magical space. It had nothing to do with trust but rather due to caution. Actually, I've hidden something from you. Lai Tie embraced his waist, slanted his head and sealed his lips. Then, he continued to watch the fire and his expression was as usual. I know. I'll wait until the day you are willing to tell me. Qin Mian was both relieved and disappointed. Lai Tie did not ask his secret, which made him think that the man did not care about him. It was such a contradictory thought. However, they still had a long time and a good of many things did not actually have to be rushed. When it's the 15th of the 8th lunar month, you'll really teach me. Qin Mian thought of the most important thing Lai Tie had said and he could not control his excitement. His heartbeat sped up and his blood boiled with excitement. Lai Tie nodded. 15th of the 8th month is the best time. Qin Mian hugged the man's head and kissed him. Lai Tie threw away the tongs in his hand, held Qin Mian's waist in both hands, and lifted him up. He put the person wholly into his arms and let him straddled on his thighs. Lips and tongues easily seized the initiative. The scent of wine in Lai Tie's mouth had not yet dispersed, filling Qin Mian's entire mouth. Qin Mian's body felt weak, his arms wound around Lai Tie's neck and he responded with all his strength, not willing to be outdone. Because his body was inferior to Lai Tie, he was soon defeated. He could only rely on Lai Tie's arms to support his upper body. Just wait, Lai Tie's lips spilled these muffled and husky words, and his tongue writhed more intensely as his right palm rubbed Qin Mian's nape and back through his cotton-padded robe. Qin Mian forcefully pushed him away. His pair of eyes stared at Lai Tie as he slightly gasped, and somewhat helplessly said, "My butt hurts for being roasted." In the first place, Lai Tie was close to the stove's hearth, and he was much closer to the fire, being in Lai Tie's arms. Lai Tie reached out his hand to feel it and it was really burning hot. He was stunned. Only a deep and happy laugh rolled out of his throat. Ha ha ha. What's so funny? Qin Mian looked at him and lost his mind. This man was really handsome. When he wasn't smiling, he looked very hard to approach. When he laughed, starlight seemed to be able to fly out of his unshakable eyes, and the corners of his lips incited enigmatic curvatures, which made people unable to shift their gazes. Lai Tie did not let Qin Mian go but shifted the wooden stump under his butt farther away from the stove while looking at his expression. Since his wife woke up from a coma, he had never shown any fear and disgust at the scar on his face. To be more precise, the scar on his face seemed non-existent in his wife's eyes. The water had boiled. After they finished washing themselves up, LIAN led Qin Mian back to the bedroom, and then he squatted in the corner of the wall and broke away a brick on the wall with his hand. "What are you doing?" Climbing the bed, Qin Mian threw off the sandals on his feet and asked in confusion. LIAN took out a flat brown wooden box from the crack of the brick and put the brick back in. He handed the wooden box to Qin Mian and motioned for him to have a look. Qin Mian opened the wooden box suspiciously. There was a stack of paper inside. After a glance, he stood up and said, "Silver banknotes? 1, 2, 3. 3 sheets of 10,000 taels silver banknote, a sheet of 5,000 taels silver banknote, and 5 sheets of 1,000 taels silver banknote. A total of 50,000 taels." LIAN nodded. Qin Mian sneered, crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked condescendingly at LIAN, "Since it's hidden so tightly, why give it to me now?" LIAN sat beside him and pulled him to sit down. He said in a low voice, "I didn't give it to you before because I was afraid you would run away." The corner of Qin Mian's mouth twitched. He looked up and thought about it. If LIAN gave the money to him in the days when he had just transmigrated and was penniless, he might have just really taken the money, but he would not take it all away. He would have taken at least 1,000 taels only. Qin Mian deliberately said, "Right now, I may also run off." His words had yet finished when his body suddenly felt heavy. He was firmly pressed on the bed by LIAN. LIAN's left hand pressed Qin Mian's right wrist, while his right hand locked his left wrist. His dark eyes firmly fixed on Qin Mian's eyes as he said in a deep voice, "No matter where you run, I'll find you." Qin Mian chuckled, raised his left hand and stroked LIAN's nape. "I'm just kidding. Since you don't like living in the town, we'll go to the village chief's house tomorrow to buy more land. Get up. I'll hide the money." LIAN turned over and lay on the bed with his hands pillowing his head as he watched Qin Mian opening the wardrobe and then the secret chest inside with satisfaction on his face. In LIAN's deep and serene eyes, there was a trace of a doting smile. Qin Mian did not feel it was safe leaving such a large sum of money with him, so his act of putting the money in the wardrobe was just for show. Turning his back to LIAN, he put the wooden box into the magical space and locked the secret chest. In the secret chest, apart from the 500 taels silver banknote from LIAN selling the bear paws, there were 2 sheets of 100 taels silver banknote, which were the revenue of eating savory restaurant. With nothing to do, Qin Mian moved the cash box out onto the bed and they counted the small sum of money together. LIAN also had the key to the cash box, but only Qin Mian had the key to the secret chest. In the cash box, there was a silver ingot of 50 taels, which was prepared for an emergency, a silver ingot of 10 taels, 4 silver ingots of 5 taels, 8 silver ingots of 1 tael, 3 strings of copper coins, and 45 pieces of copper coins. The total of assets up front was 91 taels and 45 wen. "How much land should we buy?" Qin Mian contentedly patted the money box. All the money in it was earned by them bit by bit, which made him feel a sense of achievement. LIAN said, "You decide." Qin Mian leaned on his pillow, thought for a moment, and said, "We'll buy 5 mu of paddy field, 5 mu of farmland, and 10 mu of uncultivated land for planting vegetables and fruit trees." Since they would live in the countryside for the greater part of their lives, it was also good to be a happy landlord. With a cheat, it would not be difficult to cultivate the land. It was just that he could not buy too much land at one time so as not to be so conspicuous. Taking words into action, the next day Qin Mian and LIAN came to the village chief's home with money and snacks. The village chief was surprised to learn that they were going to buy lands. "Aren't you running a shop in the town? Why do you want to buy farmland?" Qin Mian said in a high-sounding voice, "Uncle, between scholars, farmers, craftsmen, and merchants, merchants have the lowest status. We're originally farmers and we dare not forget our roots." The village chief nodded, "That's true. There are 3 families in our village who have come to me to sell their lands. They do total to over 20 mu of paddy field and farmland. However, they're scattered, a piece here and a piece there. There's plenty of uncultivated land in the village. LIAN said, it's inconvenient to take care of it if it's not in a single piece. There's no other way. The village chief took a sip of tea, but you can exchange with other people's land. LIAN looked at Qin Mian inquisitively. Qin Mian thought for a moment, then, we will only buy 15 mu of uncultivated land for the time being and then buy paddy field and farmland after the wheat harvest. Sure. Then the village chief asked, the land that is neither farmland nor residence in the village is basically uncultivated land. Where do you want to delimit this 15 mu of uncultivated land? Qin Mian asked, is it alright to delimit a square field next to our house in the direction of the grove? After the village chief thought about the condition of that piece of land, he frowned slightly and said in a dilemma, won't it take up a part of the housing site? Qin Mian put a small grey pouch on the table, pushed it in the village chief's direction and said with a smile, whether or not it's a housing site, is it not a matter of uncle's words? Besides, there are 7 rows of housing lot in our village. Aside from the row where our house is located and the row in front of our house, there are 5 other rows. If a villager wants to buy a house site, he can choose in the other 5 rows of housing. What do you think? Moreover, we don't intend to take any extra advantage and mainly consider that the land which can be connected with our home is convenient. The village chief felt the pouch. It was a big ingot and from the size of it, it was probably a 5 taels silver ingot. He put it into his sleeve and said with a smile, all right, I'll let you have that piece of land. Many thanks, uncle. Qin Mian said happily. The village chief looked at LIAN with a smile and joked, Tai Zi, having such a wife, you won't suffer afterward. Ha ha. LIAN cupped his hands in respect and said, afterwards, we still have to ask uncle to take care of us. Well said, well said. The village chief laughed happily. LIAN's wife was good at handling people. He had already brought 2 bags of expensive snacks and then gave 5 taels of silver more. Even if they had something to trouble him in the future, they would not slight him. He opened a book and looked at it. The price of uncultivated land is 1 tael and 200 wen per mu. If you buy 15 mu of uncultivated land it is 18 silver taels. In addition, the cost of handling the land deed is 50 wen. Qin Mian immediately took out a 10 taels silver ingot, a 5 taels silver ingot, 3 pieces of 1 tael silver ingots, and counted 50 copper coins. The village chief received the money, stood up and straightened his clothes. Let's go. Now we'll go and delimit the land. After breakfast, I'll go to the county to handle the land deed for you. Thank you for your trouble, uncle. The village chief took his 2 sons as helpers. They took the measuring tools to measure the land. Sticks were inserted around to mark the land with strings tied between the sticks. After marking every corner, Qin Mian's house fell in the middle of the east boundary. If he wanted to expand the house in the future, it would be convenient to expand to the north, west, and south. End chapter. Minwei Qi Nan. Chapter 71. If you want to be rich, plant fruit trees. There were hundreds of trees in the grove, such as locust, white poplar, fir, willow and bamboo. The trees were worth a sum of money if they were cut down and sold. Qin Mian suggested buying several baskets of eggs to gift to the villagers. Whether it was an elder in his 70s or 80s, or even a newly born baby, he would give 2 eggs to each person that should be considered as him buying these trees, so as to avoid future disputes. The villagers were quite happy. These trees had been there for a long time and they did not plant them. It was a surprise that they could get benefits from it. People in a farmer's household were particular about the more sons, the more happiness. The smallest family of 3 members could get 6 eggs, and a large family could get more than 20 eggs. They could eat 2 eggs per meal lasting for several days. After the land deed was obtained, Mian and LIAN prepared tea and snacks, and put writing brush and paper on the short-legged table. Their heads were next to each other as they planned the new farmland. "What do you think?" Mian just casually asked. LIAN did not have much requirements for many things, and the things he often said were, "I'll listen to you, or you decide." Surprisingly, LIAN opened his mouth and pointed to a place in the square drawn by Mian. "It's convenient to dig a pond here to raise fish and plant lotus root. It's also convenient for watering the vegetables." Mian's eyes lit up. "That's a brilliant idea. The so-called face south with the back to the north. When the wall is built on this piece of land, the entrance gate should be placed in the south. The trees can't be planted from the house to the gate to avoid blocking the view. This is the most suitable place to dig a pond." LIAN nodded. "I've seen a gourd-shaped lake in the south. Our pond can imitate that with a bridge at the waistline." Mian gave him a thumb up. After drawing the pond and the small bridge with his writing brush according to what was said, he pointed to a corner with the tip of the brush. "We'll have our hands full with farming and planting vegetables and fruit trees. We'll hire people later, right? Keep a piece of land next to the wall here to build a servant's quarters." Looking at his cheerful and energetic appearance, LIAN's eyes softened. In that year when he was forced to marry a man soon after he returned home, his heart felt a part of sadness and 3 parts of humiliation, but the remaining 6 parts was actually willingness. During his 12 years at home, nobody cared about him, while during his 10 years away from home, nobody genuinely put him in their heart and no one had really touched his heart. Moreover, he was used to seeing all kinds of darkness. Therefore, he longed for someone who belonged to him completely and only to him, someone that he could love with all his heart. At that moment, Mian appeared. Although he was dark, thin, timid, and weak, he had no parents and no support. After Mian married him, the boy could only rely on him. So, no matter what, he would not agree to divorce. In spite of Mian being a man, LIAN did not at all like women, as he had been abused by Du Shi for many years. It was good that Mian was a man. Men understood men better. At first, he only wanted to possess and control Mian, but now Mian was the one he loved. "Am I talking to you?" Mian knocked on LIAN's forehead with a writing brush. LIAN held his left hand and his deep and low voice was brimming with magnetism. "I'm listening. You keep talking." Mian's brush continued to slide on the paper. "This piece of land is for planting vegetables, this one for flowers, this one for grapes, this one for peaches, and this one for Sichuan peppers. This piece of land can be used flexibly depending on the season to plant watermelon, cantaloupe, and so on. The grove is reserved for the time being. It can be turned into a small garden in the future. You planned it very well," LIAN said. They went out with a bundle of slender sticks and divided a large area of uncultivated land into pieces of smaller areas. After working for more than 2 hours, they were sweating. Only when the weather was warmer could the fruit trees be planted. After the Lantern Festival on the 15th day of the first lunar month, the new year was considered over. The weather was getting warmer and a few trees had grown small knots alike and had yet produced tender shoots. Mian and LIAN went to their shop. After arranging all the general affairs, they focused on the newly bought land. They first hired good tree planters in the village, and then went to the orchard in the neighboring town to buy fruit trees. Instead of buying seedlings, they bought adult trees, meaning fruit trees that had previously borne fruits. A transplanted adult tree hardly survived, but Mian had a magical space. He was confident. He bought 20 peach trees, 10 yellow peach trees, 10 pear trees, 6 cherry trees, 6 jujube trees, 10 plum trees, 20 sweet oranges trees, and 2 pomegranates trees. Common people were not willing to spend money to buy fruit to eat. In addition, people at this period of time were not very skilled in taking care of fruit trees, and so the taste of fruits was very ordinary. Therefore, there was not a big market for fruits, and fruit trees were also sold cheaply. Nearly 100 trees, and Qin Mian spent less than 4 silver taels. On his way back to the village, he passed by the town and changed 10 silver taels to copper coins in the town's bank for the convenience of paying the workers. Dozens of donkey carts and ox carts carrying trees drove into the village. The mighty procession attracted the villagers to come and watch the bustling scene. It seems that LIAN is really rich. He has just bought more than 10 mu of land and now bought so many fruit trees. There was a villager who spoke with envy. Another villager said in bewilderment, "Fruits don't make a profit. Why do they buy so many fruit trees? It's strange." Yet another villager said with a smile, "Won't we able to buy fruit cheaper in the future?" There was even a villager who said in pleasant surprise, "I've taken care of fruit trees. Maybe I can find some job in LIAN's orchard." Qin Mian and LIAN had no time to deal with those gossiping villagers. They directed the cart drivers to transport the fruit trees to the planned areas. On the spot, they hired 10 people among the villagers who were watching the scene to dig silt in the village's ditch, river ditch, and pond. The silt contained ducks, gooses, and cows' excrement as well as fishes and shrimps' waste. It was relatively fertile. After the fruit trees were planted, Qin Mian would surely use the spiritual spring water to improve the quality of the soil. He did this just to cover up the spiritual spring water. The farmers of the Great Xia dynasty did not know that the silt could fertilize the farmland. No one ever dug it out and used it. Therefore, it was convenient for Qin Mian. Qin Mian hired Zhang Dashuan, Wu Di, Lei Xiangji, Lei Xiangli, and the village chief's 2 sons, a total of 6 people. After digging the tree pits, they first laid a layer of silt on the bottom of the pits before planting the trees. Finally, the pay was settled according to the number of trees planted per person, which was 10 wen per tree. The pay was quite high. With 6 people, each person could plant 14 trees on average and could earn more than 100 wen. When LIAN called Lei Xiangji and Lei Xiangli over, Lei Xiangren also followed. After hearing Qin Mian say that he would settle the pay according to the number of trees planted, he found an excuse to slip away. Qin Mian deeply sympathized with Lei Xiangji, Lei Xiangli, and Lei Xiangji. If they did not separate from the family in the future, they would have to continue to support Lei Xiangren, the young master of the family. Lei Xiangji looked at Lei Xiangren's back and his face darkened. He looked at the expressionless Lei Xiangli and secretly made up his mind that after Lei Xiangli married a wife, he would split up with Lei Daqiang. Lei Xiangli and Lei Chuntao had not been matched with a partner because Lei Daqiang and Du Shi had already said that after Lei Xiangji became a licensed tate, their value would increase accordingly and that they would have a better choice when matched. Fortunately, it would not be long before Lei Xiangji would take part in the county-level examination. Lei Xiangji could afford to wait. Qin Mian and LIAN did not participate in the work. They brought tea and water to the tree planters. While digging a hole, Zhang Dashuan asked Qin Mian curiously, "Fruit is not worth much money. Can you make money by planting so many fruit trees?" Qin Mian joked, "It's fine if it can't make money. The flowers of so many fruit trees are also beautiful." Wu Di was listening at the side and could not help rolling his eyes. "Lei Ji, Zhangxiang is serious. If you want to be rich, plant fruit trees. LIAN learned how to grow fruit trees from outside, so we're trying it." Qin Mian kept a straight face when he told the lie. LIAN was next to him. He raised his hand to stroke Qin Mian's ear without saying anything. Qin Mian had a smile on his face. What's wrong with relying on LIAN's connivance towards him? Zhang Dashuan and the others all laughed at his rhythmic verse. They did not take this sentence seriously. Planting fruit trees required money and skills. Even if they were willing to follow suit, they dared not take the risks. Zhang Dashuan and the others were able-bodied farmers. With their great strength, they worked very efficiently. Before dark, they had finished planting all the trees. Each tree had its own mark, which made it easy to count. Qin Mian and Lei Tie gave out their wages on the spot and gifted each of them a bag of sweet kuaza that they could bring back for the children at home. Zhang Dashuan and the others felt that he was very thoughtful. They all thought in unison that they would come again if the Lei Tie family wanted to hire workers in the future. The few idle villagers, who were watching at the side, were quite envious upon seeing them each carry a heavy bag of copper coins and a bag of snacks. They were determined to be on good terms with Qin Mian and Lei Tie in the future. After all the others had dispersed, Qin Mian and Lei Tie were preparing to go home when a bulky dark man came over. Qin Xiang, Lei Xiang. Qin Mian had a good memory. He immediately remembered who this was. He had seen him several times before but had never talked to him. They only exchanged a few words during the New Year's greetings. "You're Xiaohu's father, big brother Feng." Feng Wu said with a smile. "Yes, Qin Xiang has a good memory." Qin Mian had a favorable impression of Feng Wu. When he asked Xiaohu to watch over the rice grains, Feng Wu did not forbid Xiaohu. It could be seen that Feng Wu did not have any disgust towards them just because he was married to Lei Tie. "What's it?" Lei Tie asked. Feng Wu said, "It's like this, I'd like to ask if your orchard needs a caretaker. My father used to help a landlord to take care of the fruit trees for several years. He's experienced. Now that he is getting old, my older brother and I want to let him live in ease and comfort at home, but he can't stay idle and still follows us to cut firewood. I thought, since he's good at taking care of fruit trees and it's easier than farming, I want to ask for this job for him." Lei Tie held Qin Mian's shoulder. "Wife, you decide." Qin Mian asked Feng Wu, "We really need people, but how old is uncle this year? Is he in good health?" Feng Wu said with ease, "My old man is 61 years old this year. Qin Xiang can rest assured that he is in good health." With that, he asked tentatively, "Why don't I ask him to come and take a walk tomorrow?" Qin Mian nodded with a smile. "Yes. According to Big Brother Fang's words, Uncle Fang really suits our requirement, but it also depends on the old man's opinion." End chapter. Minwei Qi Nan. Chapter 72. Digging Pond, 1. Back at home, Lei Tie went to the well and directly scooped water from the well to pour on his face. Qin Mian frowned. "The water in the well now is still very cold. Careful, or you'll catch a cold." "Unlikely, my body's strong." Lei Tie pulled off the towel on the clothes drying pole to wipe his face. "Strong body." Qin Mian's gaze slipped from his broad shoulders to his thick chest, to his narrow waist, to his buttocks and then to his long legs. He coughed and looked away. "Did you see Dian Bai?" Lei Tie said, "It probably went to the mountain." Dian Bai had not lost its wildness just because it lived with two humans. From time to time, it went to the mountain alone. Sometimes it would disappear for 2 to 3 days and would occasionally brought back a small prey. At first, Qin Mian was worried that it would not return home at night. Later, seeing that it got dirty and tired but never been hurt, he let it had its way. Qin Mian lit up the oil lamps in the house. He went into the kitchen to take a bowl and filled it with spiritual spring water. He carried it out to Lei Tie. "You get 2 buckets of water, mix this bowl of water in it, and then pour some on each fruit tree." Lei Tie did not ask a word as he nodded and went out with the bowl. Qin Mian could see from the kitchen's window that he bent down to lift water from the well. His arms and shoulders imbued with power and his back, waist, and hip outlined a charming curve. When Lei Tie's back disappeared outside the courtyard, he suddenly realized that he had been watching Lei Tie all the time. He rubbed his face to pull himself together and calmly scooped out rice to rinse. They had made certain of their intentions and Lei Tie belonged to his family. Wasn't it normal that he could not help staring at Lei Tie? When Lei Tie came back from watering the trees, Qin Mian grabbed his neck without warning and forced a kiss on his lips, which puzzled Lei Tie a little bit. Upon seeing his wife walk away leisurely to continue cooking with lively movement and good mood, LIAN was relieved and sat quietly in his usual position in front of the stove, watching the fire and adding firewood. How many people should we hire to start digging pond tomorrow? Mian ladled up the well-fried twice-cooked pork into the plate, which smelled extremely savory. He picked up his chopsticks and clipped a piece of meat to eat. Then he clipped another piece of meat and sent it to LIAN's mouth. Here, have a taste. LIAN held the chopsticks and looked at him as he bit at the meat. Mian suddenly remembered that he had not changed the chopsticks. 30 people. 22 people will dig up soil and 8 people will pick up the soil. LIAN spoke after swallowing the meat in his mouth. Mian began to make the second dish, which was stir-fried lean meat with dried red pepper. Nowadays, even without meat tenderizer or cornstarch, he could still fry lean meat to be tender and delicious. When he was making dumplings on the evening of the 9th day of the first month, he inadvertently remembered that there was a time in his previous life when he was cooking, the cornstarch at home was used up and he forgot to buy some more. Then, inspiration struck him to use flour. After mixing with flour, the cured lean meat was very soft and tender, not tough at all. When the oil in the wok heated up, Mian stir-fried the cured lean meat and ginger together for a while before adding dried red pepper. The spicy aroma made him want to sneeze, so he quickly turned his back to the wok. Digging a pond is also a big event. Do you want to go to Deng's village and tell the grandparents? There are 2 uncles and 3 cousins, too. If we don't ask them to help us dig the pond, they may feel that we don't take them into consideration. As for whether they'll come or not, depends on them. Country folks were very particular about this. They would inform their relatives and friends of any big events at home to show respect, which also meant that both sides were in good terms. His wife was considerate. LIAN nodded, I'll go early tomorrow morning. The next day at dawn, LIAN drove to Deng's village. Mian had prepared breakfast but LIAN had yet to come back, so he ate alone. He had just washed the dishes and tidied up the house when LIAN came back. Eldest Uncle Deng, Second Uncle Deng, Deng Chuan, Deng Zhong and Deng Xiao jumped down from the cart with shovels and baskets. Mian was surprised and said, Eldest uncle, second uncle, eldest cousin, second cousin and third cousin are here. Come in, please. Eldest Uncle Deng was still indifferent as he nodded. Second Uncle Deng had a smile on his face and very kindly said, Xiao Mian, thanks for the hospitality. Deng Chuan, Deng Zhong and Deng Xiao all greeted Mian with a smile. It was not good to call him cousin's wife, so they called him Mian Gur. It was their first time here. Entering the house, they could not help but look around curiously. Deng Chuan said with a smile, your house is well organized. Deng Zhong nodded in agreement. The most noticeable thing in the central room was the wall. Unlike the wall of the common villager's house where there were a lot of dried mud lumps between the bricks due to extrusion, theirs was all polished and leveled. On the wall opposite the door was a pair of calligraphy and painting, a small wall-mounted flower basket symmetrically on the left and right. There were also 2 happiness characters pasted opposite each other, and 4 exquisite wall-mounted bamboo candlesticks in the 4 corners of the room that reached up to shoulder height. The several exquisite objects with elaborated arrangement could easily attract the eyes of anyone entering the door, thus weakening their concern for the wall itself. Taking another look at the furniture in the central room, the dining table was covered with reddish-brown and white checker tablecloth with a complete tea set placed on it, and the 2 high-backed chairs placed side by side were padded with 2 finely tailored grey fur seats. On the spotless tea table, there was a fruit basket with a few apples and oranges in it. The 4 big leaning cushions on the settee looked soft. On the right side of the settee was a 3-layer wooden rack which was neither high nor low. A wooden knife holder was placed on the top layer, on which was placed a smoothly polished wooden knife, and beside it was a small bow. In the middle layer, there were pairs of wooden carriage models and sailing boat models. At the bottom layer, there were 2 snack plates, containing melon seeds and peanuts, which were convenient for the owner to take when sitting on the settee. Continuing to look to the right, there was a waist-high cupboard beside the settee, with a vase on it. There were several bright flowers in the vase, full of vitality. It made people feel refreshed. A closer look and one would discover that the red flowers, yellow flowers, green leaves in the vase and the flowers in the wall-mounted basket were all made of cloth. It made people marvel at the ingenuity of the maker. The whole central room was very warm and elegant. Deng Xiao joked, "It's arranged so neatly that we dare not to sit down." Qin Mian took out the best tea from the cupboard to make tea for them. He said modestly, only fiddling around while idle. LIAN took the snack plates into the kitchen. After a while, he came out with several plates of snacks. The snacks in the plates were piled high. "Eldest uncle, second uncle, and cousins, please make yourself at home," LIAN succinctly said. Deng Xuan hastily said that there's no need to stand on ceremonies. "Eldest uncle and second uncle, it's warm now. Why don't you bring the children here to play?" Qin Mian asked. LIAN was too tight-lipped, he could not count on him for this kind of domestic trivialities. Speaking of the children, eldest uncle Deng's face softened, "We're here to work, why would we bring them for? They're too noisy." Be that as it may, he had no disdain in his eyes and obviously loved his grandchildren. Qin Mian said, "It's good for children to be lively. The pond we're going to dig is very large. It's estimated to take 2 or 3 days to completely dig up. It'd be better to bring the children tomorrow. Aren't boys at that age like to play with soil and mud? Running and jumping more often makes the body healthier. As for the little girls, I can let little sister watch over them. It's the right time for the girls to go out and have a look while they're still young." He arranged it very carefully and spoke sincerely. Second uncle came around first. "Well then, we'll bring them here tomorrow." Eldest uncle Deng also nodded. The 3 Deng cousins' expressions were even gentler. For Qin Mian to attach importance to their children was the same as attaching importance to them. Qin Mian also added, "As for grandpa, grandma, eldest aunt, second aunt, and the 3 cousins' wives, I'm afraid we won't be able to welcome them well at present. When the flowering and fruiting season of fruit trees is up, I'll invite them for a visit." Eldest uncle Deng and the others' faces were brimming with smiles. "That's a deal," Deng Zhong said with a laugh, "when the fruit trees blossom, we'll bring them to see the flowers." "That's settled then." Qin Mian nodded with a smile, "At that time, I'll let LIAN pick you all up." After chatting for a while, Deng Xuan took the initiative to say, "It's getting late. Shall we go now?" Qin Mian waved a hand, "Eldest cousin, no hurry. You all can sit down a little longer, I'll call the others first." After Qin Mian left, there was a moment of silence in the room. Deng Xuan looked at his tight-lipped cousin and shook his head helplessly. He thought to himself, based on temperament, cousin and Mian are quite compatible. Second uncle Deng was bored sitting, so he stood up. "Tai Sui, please take us there first and have a look at your orchard on the way." The group of men carried their shovels and baskets and went out with LIAN. They needed to hire 30 people in total. In addition to the 5 members of the Deng family, Qin Mian found another 25 people in the village. The digging work was harder, so the pay was 80 yuan a day. The picking up work was relatively easy, so it's 50 yuan a day. It was fairer to pay according to the amount of soil dug up and the amount of soil picked up, which could prevent people from being lazy. Considering that they were all fellow villagers, Qin Mian did not do so. Being excessively calculating in everything was not the way to deal with things. The high wages made villagers swarm up. If Lei Xiangji, Lei Xiangli, Zhang Dashuan, and Wu Di were not informed in advance, they might not get included in the job. Qin Mian also hired 2 married women to move the stove to the field with the purpose of boiling water and deliver tea. The wage for them was 20 yuan a day. The 2 married women were too happy, they grinned from ear to ear. What a wonderful thing that just by sitting there boiling water could earn them 20 yuan. After Qin Mian called people, he returned home. The gate was locked, so he did not enter and went directly to the field. Just after 2 steps, an old man with his hands behind his back came across. His eyes were bright and his body was thin, but his pace was steady. One could see that he was hale and healthy. Once Qin Mian saw that the old man resembled Fang Wu by half, he greeted with a smile, "Uncle Fang." "Hee." Uncle Fang squinted as he laughed and beckoned him to walk together with him. "This youngster's eyes are very sharp." Qin Mian looked at him and shook his head. "Second brother Fang said that you're 61 years old this year. He's surely fooling me. I think you're 50 at most, hale and hearty despite the years." "Ha ha ha," Uncle Fang laughed, "he's not fooling you. I've agreed to what Fang Wu said. I'll have to ask this youngster to take care of me later. Uncle Fang is overestimating this junior a lot." Qin Mian politely said, "It's LIAN and me who have to ask Uncle Fang to take care of us." Old people liked people who were modest and polite. Uncle Fang stroked his beard and nodded, "Well said." Qin Mian said, "I don't know." Knowing what he was going to say, Uncle Fang waved his hand, "Let's go and see the trees first." Qin Mian readily accepted all good advice and made a gesture of please. When they came to the orchard, Uncle Fang was a little excited when he saw the fruit trees. He quickened his pace and walked to the front unconsciously. Based on his expression, he really understood fruit trees. Qin Mian's heart was truly at ease and quietly followed him. Uncle Fang used his fingernail to pick out a small piece of bark from a branch. He looked at the color of the core under the bark and went on. After turning around in the fruit trees, he stopped, turned back to Qin Mian, and said, "You bought a lot of fruit trees. There are 3 trees that withered a little, I'm afraid they'd be hard to survive. The other trees are well chosen. However, the transplanted adult trees are difficult to survive. Now they'd only been transplanted for a day, so there's nothing yet to see. If, after 5 days, these trees don't show signs of withering, there's basically no big problem with them." Qin Mian was not worried about this. He had confidence in the potency of the spiritual spring water. "Later on, I may trouble Uncle Fang with the labor." Qin Mian pondered for a moment. Generally, the fruit season is about 3 months. During the fruit season, I'll pay Uncle Fang 200 Wen a month. Outside the fruit season is 50 Wen a month. What does Uncle Fang think? This junior doesn't know the exact market situation of this business. If the arrangement is unfit, please let me know. Uncle Fang waved his hand with happy laughter. "I don't need so much. Pay 100 Wen per month during the fruit season and 20 Wen per month outside the fruit season. It's a deal." After that, without waiting for Qin Mian to speak, he went back to the place where the pond was being dug up. End chapter. Minwei Qi Nan. Chapter 73. Digging Pond, 2. Qin Mian also went that way. The area of the pond was marked with branches, and the workers were divided into 2 groups, digging from the waist of the gourd towards both ends. If one group's progress was too far behind the other, it would certainly look bad for that group. Each of them took off their cotton-padded clothes and only wore a single unlined garment with rolled-up sleeves. They stepped on the shovels as they dug the soil, working in full swing. LIAN stood not far away, glancing over the crowd without expression. "What do you think?" Qin Mian came to his side and asked in a low voice. LIAN nodded. "Has the matter of Uncle Fang settled?" Qin Mian suddenly saw LIAN carrying a shovel on his shoulders and swaggering towards this side. He felt disgusted in his heart. Why is he here again? LIAN's eyes turned sterner. No one called him. LIAN came over very quickly and chose a position before stepping on the shovel to dig the soil, pretending to be full of energy. It was just that, when he dug a shovel of soil, others had already dug 3. Not far from him, second Uncle Deng happened to notice this and scornfully frowned. Qin Mian raised his eyes to look at LIAN, and said in a low voice, "This is upsetting." Lei Tie pressed on his shoulder and motioned for him to watch again. Lei Xiangren slowly dug the soil with his heart-blooming happiness. He could earn more than 200 yuan if he mingled with these people for 2 or 3 days. It's just like picking up money. At this time, he suddenly felt a pain in his right knee and fell to the ground. What's wrong? A villager next to him asked kindly. It's nothing. It's nothing. Lei Xiangren rubbed his knee. Perceiving that there was nothing wrong with it, he quickly got up from the ground. Who would have known that he had yet to stand firmly when his knee felt numb and totally unresponsive, which made him end up sitting on his bottom on the ground once again. Lei Xiongji was perfectly clear of Lei Xiongren's intentions, so he said in annoyance, Ergur, if you're not well, go home to rest. Fine. I'll come to help the Dagur some other day. Lei Xiongren choked back his unwillingness, afraid that there was some hidden ailment with his leg. He had to use the shovel as a crutch as he left sluggishly. A few villagers who were close to him breathed a sigh of relief. Although it was not them who paid the wages, if they did more and got the same wage as Lei Xiongren, who had done less, they would naturally feel uncomfortable. Did you have something to do with that? Qin Mian approached Lei Tie with his eyes sparkling. Lei Tie looked steadily forward and raised his hand to hold his head down. Qin Mian looked at Lei Xiongren's back. If Lei Xiongren dared to take advantage of his family again, he would set off Lei Tie on him. Not wanting to make the workers felt that he and Lei Tie were not at ease and was monitoring them here, Qin Mian and Lei Tie intended to leave. Everyone, we'll leave things to you here. Work in the morning until the beginning of the hour of Wu and continue at the end of the hour of Wu. Take a rest when you're tired. There's no need to rush too much. Note, hour of Wu is 11 am to 1 pm. That was a period of 2 hours, which was enough time for the villagers to go home to eat and rest a bit. All the villagers responded happily. Qin Mian also told the 2 women who made tea not to cut off the tea supply and left with Lei Tie. Nevertheless, even if they were not there, most people would not be lazy since Lei Xiongji, Lei Xiongli and the Deng family were all there. Qin Mian and Lei Tie drove the ox cart to the town. Qin Mian wrote a list and asked Lei Tie to buy snacks and fruits that children like to eat, to prepare for the coming little guests. Meanwhile, he went to eating savory restaurant. It was not the shop's opening hour yet. The tables had not been moved out and the door was half opened. Qin Mian entered the door and saw that Yu Dong was leading Zheng Lu, Wang Shun and the others to wash vegetables, skewer food and make food balls. In the past few months, the staff had become skilled, their movements were swift and quick. In particular, Chen Si and Shi Tiou were the quickest. They put a ball of meat in their hands, closed their thumbs and index fingers, and a ball popped up and fell into the bamboo sieve. In a short time, they could make 8 to 9 balls. The speed was as fast as a snapshot. With a smile in his eyes, Qin Mian looked directly at everyone, letting them see his satisfaction. Everyone has been working hard all the time. Yu Dong, you'll lead everyone to have dinner in the shop this evening before going off work. After you all finished with these, pick out the dishes you want to eat for dinner before opening the shop. In the evening, you'll have a hot pot, eat till your stomach bursts. My treat. Wang Shun, Chen Si, Shi Tiou and Zheng Lu all stood up happily and said, "Thank you very much, small boss." Yu Dong also smiled, "Small boss can rest assured." Qin Mian saying my treat was precisely that. However, he still needed to charge it on the account to make it easier later when he needed to balance the accounts. Qin Mian raised his hand to signal for them to continue working and went around the shop. The kitchen and the shop were very clean. It could be inferred that the staffs were not lazy just because he and Lei Tie reduced their number of visits to the shop. He became more satisfied and planned to appropriately increase their wages after a period of time. He wrapped some freshly made food balls in oiled paper and let Yu Dong charge it into account, too. When Lei Tie finished shopping, they went home. At noon, Qin Mian and Lei Tie treated eldest Uncle Deng and his group to lunch. They also invited Lei Xiangji and Lei Xiangli over. Qin Mian cooked a large hot pot and stir-fried 5 to 6 dishes. It was quite a sumptuous meal. Deng Chuan, Deng Zhong, and Deng Xiao were especially fond of hot pot. They kept dipping food into the hot soup and rarely moved their chopsticks to the stir-fried dishes. After the food balls in the pot were gone, Qin Mian put in another 60 to 70 balls. After drinking a mouthful of water, Deng Chuan continued to clip the savory and spicy food ball to eat as he asked Qin Mian, "Mian Gur, did you invite Zhao Sifa and Zhou Erhao?" No. Qin Mian used the serving chopsticks to serve eldest Uncle Deng and second Uncle Deng. When we called people, they were just there. They'd spoken, so I couldn't say no. Are they dishonest? There was no surprise in his eyes. Deng Zhong shook his head. They're more than dishonest. I think they purposely came to muddle along. Eldest Uncle Deng said slowly, Xiao Mian hasn't thoroughly considered this matter. After living in the village for such a long time, you and Tai Sui should have a general understanding of the villagers' behaviors. You should find people in private. Lei Tie defended Qin Mian, it's me who asked my wife to call people directly. Eldest Uncle Deng glanced at him and said nothing more. Second Uncle Deng, however, did not think Qin Mian was such a careless person. Qin Mian secretly patted Lei Tie's thigh and helped eldest Uncle Deng to clip a piece of meat on the stomach of the fish. Thank you for your concern. Actually, I deliberately said that I wanted to invite people to dig the pond in front of so many people today. Eldest uncle, if I find people in private, what do you think will the uninvited villagers say about me and Lei Tie? The invitation is made public. Although there may be 1 or 2 people who are lazy and sleazy, the initiative is in the hands of the villagers, and they can't blame me and Lei Tie for them not getting a spot. The development of our house will not stay at this stage. In the future, we would still have to hire people to do work for us. As it happens, we can see who are the honest and dishonest ones. Anyone who is dishonest can be seen by others. If we're going to invite people to do some work next time, no one will say anything if we don't invite these lazy people. Our family doesn't run a charity hall to let them take anything for free. The faint smile on Qin Mian's face was full of self-confidence with the manner of having a card up his sleeve. Eldest Uncle Deng slightly nodded his head and took a profound look at him. Second Uncle Deng laughed out loud and patted Qin Mian hard on the shoulder. I knew this lad have a clever mind. Deng Chuan and Deng Zhong looked at each other with a smile. Since you think things so thoroughly, we can be less worried. Deng Xiao, whose mouth had not stopped as he was engrossed in eating, only spoke at this time. I'd said that me and Gur and cousin can take care of their own home. Do you believe me now? Lei Xiangji and Lei Xiangli were deep in thought and vaguely learned something from Qin Mian. In the afternoon, eldest Uncle Deng and his group continued to dig the pond. After Qin Mian and Lei Tie checked the progress, they went home and took hoes and baskets to work in the vegetable field. There were some radishes and a lot of cabbages in the vegetable field. One person dug up and the other picked up the vegetables to transport home. When the weather got warmer, new vegetables would be planted in the vegetable field. The red radish could be made into shredded pickled radish, and the cabbage could be made into pickled cabbage. These 2 dishes went well with rice. In particular, the pickled cabbage could be used to make dumplings with pork and pickled cabbage, boiled fish with pickled cabbage and chili, stewed meat with pickled cabbage, and even egg fried rice with pickled cabbage. Lei Tie saw Qin Mian licking his lips with sparkling eyes. He didn't know exactly what delicious food was Qin Ming thinking of, but he could not help himself from grabbing Qin Mian's head and dropping a kiss on his lips. Qin Mian blinked his eyes and conveniently picked up a basket to cover their heads to keep any prying eyes that might be in the distance. A fleeting smile flashed in Lei Tie's dark eyes. He only intended to have a little taste but changed his mind and deepened the kiss. After the kiss, they looked at each other in silence before lowering their heads and continued to work. Eldest Uncle Deng and his group had dinner at Qin Mian's house and were sent back by LIAN in an ox cart. Eldest Uncle Deng said that he did not have to pick them up tomorrow. They would borrow 2 carts to take the children over, so LIAN did not have to run back and forth. The next day after breakfast, LIAN went to the pond. At home, Qin Mian tidied up, took out all kinds of snacks and fruits, and put 7 to 8 plates on the table. 2 donkey carts stopped at the gate of the courtyard, and several children dressed in new clothes jumped out of the carts like dumplings. Deng Quan's children were Xia and Kun Te, Deng Zhong's children were Minya and Yuanzhe, Deng Xiao's children were Suanzhe, Yuya, and Lanya. There were a total of 7 children. The oldest was Xia, 10 years old, the youngest was Yuanzhe and Lanya, both 5 years old. The children shouted at Qin Mian, cousin Uncle Mian. Eldest Uncle Deng and his group did not enter the house. Second Uncle Deng said, Xiao Mian, the children are handed over to you. We'll go to the site directly. Rest assured, second uncle. Qin Mian led several children into the house. The children just arrived at a new place, so they were still a little shy and did not speak. When they saw the snacks on the table, they relaxed and the small children ran over to eat snacks. Xia had the demeanor of an elder sister and spoke less. Her eyes had been paying attention to the youngest Yuanzhe and Lanya. Qin Mian carried Yuanzhe and Lanya onto the chair and moved the snack plates towards them. He smilingly said, "Take whichever you like." "Thank you, cousin Uncle Mian." Yuanzhe, who looked dignified and strong, said out loud. End chapter.